Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Public Services Committee meeting on the 1st of September. Hello and welcome. Thanks for all coming. Before we get going, I would just like to congratulate Councillor Amos on his, do you mind if I say? On his first that he got in his degree. So congratulations, and I believe now off to Oxford for an MA.
That's right.
So congratulations for the hard work.
Not too kind.
No, that's fine. Okay, well done though, and congratulations. And we look forward to seeing how you get on. Gets in the first in the MA. So, I have been public participation is the first bit. Let's get back on track. So, I haven't been advised of anybody. There's nobody here. So, guess we just carry on. I won't bother reading out the rest of that bit then because there's nobody here. Apologies for absence. We have Councillor Bennett and Councillor Belty. Both have personal commitments. I propose we accept them. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair. I'd like to, all
in favour.
All in favour, sorry. Losing on. Thank you very much. Right, let's move on to item 3 to receive the minutes of the meeting on June 21st. I'd like to propose these for accuracy. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to speak or have any questions about them? No? Well, all those in favour, please.
That's carried.
Fantastic. The bit I hate, the bit where I read out to you. Thank you very much. Okay, so Chairman's updates. Committee be aware that there is a community strategy on the agenda today. I don't want to talk too much about this at this point. However, at the current cost of living and the rise in energy bills, we are mindful that some people in East Grinstead are really going to struggle. We are liaising with various charities, watching the government announcements. Obviously, with the new Prime Minister next week, we'll see what happens there. But also starting to ask ourselves what we can do more as a town. The clerk is meeting next week with the Cabinet Member for Housing and Mid Sussex District Council to talk about homelessness and some ideas as to how we can work together during the winter to make it easier for those in need. And also today met with the landlord of a pub in town regarding warm spaces for those who are concerned about heating their homes. We are looking to see how we may be able to help with these existing ideas rather than reinventing the wheel. More will no doubt come forward to the next meeting when I suspect we will have facts rather than scaremongering. I agree with that bit after that. And we can review what we can do to help those out there that need help in town. Please watch the space for updates. That's basically the end of the chairman updates. I think we've all got some very interesting and scary times ahead, and we all need to help like we did during COVID and pull together and help the community to get through these difficult times. And we did it in COVID and we can do it again. So fingers crossed, and let's see what Monday brings and how the new Prime Minister faces the challenges ahead. Anybody got anything else to add or any questions? Anything on that? Well, Carol, members' declarations of interest. Has anybody got any declarations of interest with anything on the agenda today? Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so I'd like to welcome Lisa from the EGBA and Stuart. Sorry, and also Stuart. For this item, the EGBA did collate their comments and concerns to the police and were submitted to Sergeant Boyd for comment and response. So would you like to hand over to you and
Thanks,
both?
Mr. Chairman.
So you've seen, it's been handed hopefully over to you, the report that I
Yes.
sent to Julie.
Yes.
So it would be great to hear, obviously, any comments you've got about an update from Sussex Police about policing in East Grinstead.
Yes, certainly. Thanks for having me here, everybody. With policing, there's ups and downs, as we all know. I think a big problem within East Grinstead has been the fact that it's under-policed due to lack of resources and having closed the old police station. So the good news on that front is that my new Chief Inspector, Mr. Diaz, is actively putting together a business plan to utilize Chequer Mead, which is our satellite station at the moment, to be able to have at least a neighborhood policing team permanently there, so that we don't have to travel great distances to get here or rely on 2 PCSOs and a PC and possibly myself being the only folks in town. So I appreciate it's frustrating, and your questions you put forward. Yeah, I actually went through each question that you put there with one of my PCSOs, and we sort of had a look at them, and I appreciate them. I think a lot of what I saw from there is that for us to be able to target certain types of crime that are occurring and affecting the businesses, is that there is reports put in by you folks every single time there's an incident. Because looking at some of the questions, you've quite rightly raised something that happened there at a location or a shop or something like that. But then that can be going back to October last year or further, and there's been no reports since.
Yeah.
So if we don't have the reports on the system, it's difficult for our team to actually be able to say, right, that shop is getting, this is happening there all the time, we need to try and help and do something about it. So that would be very helpful,
Yes.
perhaps.
Yeah.
For you to contact the police. I know it's a little bit of a clunky process with the 101, but you can send an email as long as it's recorded on our system and you go through the directory.
Yeah, we're having a demonstration of a new software called DISC.
Okay.
Are you aware of that? Chris, I can't remember his surname now, from Sussex Police. And this is going to be a lot easier, I understand, for shops and businesses to be able to report crimes directly to the police without having to go through dialing 101.
That would be fantastic.
Yes, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing this demonstration.
Yes.
And then I planned to obviously go to all the retailers, businesses, and get them to sign up to it.
That'd be very nice.
Can I just say that the problem really is, and this has been going on for at least 10 years, the lack of confidence in the police. And that I hadn't, when I was chief executive of the HPA, I had meetings with the, I think the chief inspector, or he was down in Hayward's Heath, who explained various things to me. And he said, well, actually, you don't have, for instance, a shoplifting problem in East Grinstead. I said, well, how have you come by that? And he said, well, nobody reports it. Consequently, you don't report it. We don't have any statistics, and you don't have a problem, and we can't deal with it. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. People don't report it these days because they don't think you can do anything about it. And it's a matter of that. You talk to restaurants, they have runners. You don't have to shoplifters, they're runners. People just not paying the bills and leaving. And what do they do? Chasing down the street? It's an attitude. And it's a general feeling of the shop people. There ain't any police here. We used to have PCOs walking down the street. How effective they were, but they knew people. They knew the kids, the problem kids. There was and I have to say, careful, I said there was a PCO woman. I don't know what it's called, I can't remember her name. She was really fantastic. She was charming. She knew the people. She knew the shops, and there was a feeling. We don't have that anymore. You know, it's a shock to see a policeman walk down the street.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. The shops, they couldn't be bothered with it. They couldn't be bothered reporting because they know nothing's going to happen. It's like the Broadley incident. They were assaulted, but nothing happened. Nobody turned up from the police. So it's to galvanise the people into it is what I understand you need. is a real problem. Now, this thing that Lisa is talking about may be that. We tried to introduce, I think we used to call it shop watch.
This is meant to
Yeah,
be much
yeah,
better
you know,
than
that, but shopkeepers weren't interested in that.
Yes, I was wanting to get that introduced myself as well, but I think you're quite right. They've decided that we're not going to progress on the old
Yeah.
technology and rather move forward.
Yeah.
Now, I appreciate what you're saying, sir, about officers not being around. Although I was saying to the chairman earlier, every single shift that I work, my colleague, another PC, and myself, we walk through East Grinstead, through the town centre, and people walk past and then they see us and they talk to us. What we have is we have 3 sections that cover East Grinstead, and you've got 2 PCSOs from each section, so 6 PCSOs, and we've got to sort of share the time. So at any one particular, say, late shift or an early shift, you've got 2 PCSOs for the town. That's it, unfortunately. I need lots more, but that's all we have, and it's quite a big area to cover. So we have to triage where we're going to put those resources and at the time. And it's very difficult to second guess where some sort of occurrence is going to happen and why aren't the PCSOs or the police there at the time.
because I guess the area is not just the high street, you're talking.
No,
about
we're talking about all the rural area, the parks, all those different
housing
places.
estates.
We are upping our social media profile. So Twitter and we'll look at Twitter and I think it's Facebook as well. So that we're encouraging the PCSOs and the PCs to keep you updated as a public as to where they're going, because it's very, you know, it's frustrating for us, especially for myself, when I know that on a Friday evening the PCSOs are dealing with antisocial behaviour at Mount Noddy. They're probably going to need some help or some assistance, and the response team is in Crawley and they've got to get over here, but they're super busy themselves, so it's a bit difficult. So they're there, and then the folks in the high street or the businesses say, well, nothing's happening. Yes, we need more resources, but that's unfortunately not on my pay grade. But we've been working with trying to get CCTV improved. I've got a couple of things written here, so if I look down,
Sure,
please
no,
excuse me. So neighbourhood policing team, which I'm part of, we part of the community. A PCSO, like you described, is a fantastic asset to the police, because they know the people that they're dealing with and the people know them, and it's this continuity, which is so important. The problems that we have is that we just don't have enough folks to do that. And as soon as you can train a PCSO up and they get to know absolutely everyone in town, and then they decide, well, I want to get posted to Brighton, or I'm now going to go and become a PC, it's difficult. And then we've got to start the whole process again, which makes it difficult. So we lose that continuity and we lose that old community beat type officer that you so rightly said is such a necessity in a town like East Grinstead. So what we do is, as a sergeant and my PC, we are at every shift. I'm responsible for East Grinstead, so I'm definitely here, but we don't work 7 days a week. So that's where there's a bit of an awkward side, because we go on rest days, and other officers, they might have to stay in Hayward Heath that evening, or Burgess Hill or something in East Grinstead can be slightly neglected, which drives me insane, because I don't want that happening. If I could be sitting in the high street every day and night, I'd do it. But unfortunately, practically, it's not possible, and I'd age very quickly. So when I look at the notes that I made, a few of the concerns that have been raised, I mean, McDonald's and KFC, we had a lot of issues. It's funny in East Grinstead because you have ASB, and then you can have 3-4 weeks of minimal antisocial behaviour, and it's wonderful, and then suddenly it comes back again. So we've been working with the McDonald's and the KFC because we have had big problems with individuals coming from out of county, and going there in the afternoons and causing havoc and terrorizing the shopkeepers. So what we did, we worked with McDonald's, the head office with McDonald's, and the same with KFC. KFC, both businesses have been really helpful. KFC, on our recommendation, stopped school kids coming in between a certain time in the afternoons, because they would go in and they'll run riot within the restaurant, and the staff there, they don't really want to get involved. And I can't blame them, they're not paid to do that sort of thing. And McDonald's as well. I know we had an incident with some stones being thrown outside McDonald's I think it was last week sometime in the evening, and we're going to be getting someone into court for that. So we're working away, we chip away. I think the answer will be to have more people permanently booking on in East Grinstead. That'd be lovely. And I wouldn't have to rely on, people coming over from Crawley to help out, because we outnumbered.
That presence
Yes,
is the deterrent.
it is. But I will say we are, we try and spend as much time as possible in town. 2 days ago, or perhaps it was yesterday, I walked along the high street with my PC colleague, and we popped into a few shops, especially the Sussex Biltong one there, because obviously there's a connection there. And we spoke to the people, and they were all absolutely lovely. And they all said how happy they were to have us visiting. And I do try and communicate with them and tell them why you don't see us every other day. But that's one of the reasons. Has that answered anything for you, sir?
Well, it has. It's really the same old story. I'm afraid to say it's a lack of resources and finance, and also the numbers of this. I understand that, but we always get the feeling that we're right at the edge of not only West Sussex, but we're at the edge of the policing, and that it's all rushed to the barrier. If you're not careful, you end up in East Sussex or something like that. And seeing police around, I think is vital. I realise your problems. I understand that. But shopkeepers say to me, why the hell do we pay for the police? There's no bloody police around. You never see them.
But if that's not true,
I know you will argue about that, but I come into East Grinstead a great deal.
Yes.
And I rarely see a police person.
Yes. Well, a lot of all the jobs that have happened where the shops have called up for an incident has been attended by the response team that come up from Crawley. So they deal with that.
So including this business at Broadleys, where the guy was assaulted, and then the guy went down the road and went into other place as well, to stealing. They've even got videos of the guy.
I can't comment on our
But they
ongoing
never turned up. They
investigation.
never got anything from the police.
I can't answer that, only because there's the possibility that when that happened, there was something happening somewhere else that was
Nothing
worse.
happened instantly, but nothing happened afterwards either.
Yeah. But then, yes, I see your point, sir.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna.
It was only the son of the Broadleys who's just out of
Stuart,
university.
we
He
do need
tackled.
to be very careful because this is going to be recorded on YouTube and we're talking about a specific
Yes,
incident.
okay,
I do
okay.
need to be
Well, this
careful
particular
about
person was assaulted and he attempted to stop the shop.
Thank you. I would like to move to my committee members now, and I know that Councillor Bell has got a question. So,
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. First of all, keep doing what you're doing, because we are very grateful. It's not easy, we understand that, but you have been doing a great job with your team since you took over, and we want you to carry on doing that without feeling that we're against you, because we're not.
No, I don't feel that.
A lot of what you have said comes back to, as you say, lack of resources. But if you look throughout a lot of the things that come our way, East Grinstead, as Stuart's just been saying, seems to be, and this is all sorts of things, seems to be at the back of the queue. And this is something that some of us who are on the Sussex need to be able to keep raising down there. Because it seems a nonsense to me that you've hit the nail on the head to get a team permanently here in East Grinstead. That's what we need. I was having a chat with the PCC last year and early part of this year, when I was in the position this gentleman's in now. And she agreed that what we needed in East Grinstead was a police station. And she explained to me that she recently, or she was in the process of setting up a police station elsewhere. And since then, that seems to have died a death, which I'm very, very disappointed about. Because you're absolutely right. We need a police station in East Grinstead. I pointed out that in the 60s, they built a brand new police station over there with a courthouse and everything else. And it was full of police constables, inspectors, and no doubt an inspector and chief inspector. Today is you guys with your team who are doing a great job. But you're up against a time which is ridiculous. And it seems that we're at the back of the queue. And whenever any of us get the chance to talk to the PCC, I want to keep on having it. Because I think it's a lack of resources throughout the country. We've seen the result of some of that throughout the country with some of the effects that's having with burglary rates and everything else. It's ludicrous. To police means to be present to control and keep order. You can't be present. You can't do that. Why, I would ask, not you, but her, why in the world should other places in mid-Sussex have a police station and people regularly there and we not? It just isn't right. And thank you so much for what you and your team are doing here and for raising that. Don't lose heart, because we're right behind you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor De Bill. Councillor Peacock.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being open. It's refreshing to hear you admit we need a station and we need the resources. I find it slightly surprising that you have to put a business case forward. I'm just looking, the first question is, what is the status of the Chequermead site? Because it's not on the list of premises in Sussex. And I noticed that Crowborough and Uckfield both seem to have stations, but the population is 15 and 20,000, where East Grinstead is 30,000. So when you say you're putting forward a business case, what is the status of that? And how long do you think it will take to get that moving? Because I think we may have, I understand Uckfield and Crowborough are more, how should you say, based in the countryside, have longer response rates, whereas we're near Crawley.
Yeah.
But what is the status? Because let's face it, a town of 30,000 people, we may be having low-level crime, shall we call it? But if that's left, even with your good efforts, if that's left, how should you say, with a low-level response or apparent response with boots on the ground, it won't take long for that to spiral. So what is the status and how long do you think we will see Chequermead turn around? Because I think everyone, all councils agree we need it. And residents do.
Firstly, I'd be ecstatic if I could say next week it's happening. I was told today that that is the proposal, because I have been pushing for it to happen for quite a while, since I've been working in East Grinstead. It is massively needed. I really can't give you a timescale, and I wish I could. Again, that is for senior management to be able to answer that question. I can't. I do know that we are desperately eager to get it sorted and nagging our superiors, because at the end of the day, I have people to look after as well, not only the community, but my colleagues. And it's not a safe situation. So I can't answer that. I can't say to you exactly how long it's going to be, but what I can say is that I'm more than happy to communicate with whoever needs to know as soon as I get any developments. More than happy to do that. So we just have to watch the space at the moment. It may sound corny, but hopefully I'll just give you good news.
Chair, can I just add a comment that I appreciate other committee members you're going to go to? It may sound that we are perhaps pressing that point. This has come up in the lot since the police station was closed and we moved to Chequermead Hub, or we moved to Chequermead Hub. This has come up time and time again, that we needed to have the NPT signing on here, and we have been told at least 3 times in the past 6 years it's going to happen. It hasn't. So forgive us if we're a little bit sceptical. And I
Fine.
think exactly as Councillor DeBell said, we're 100% behind you and we really want this to happen, but we have heard it before.
I appreciate that. I've been working out here for about 2.5 years, maybe 3 years. In that time, there's been no mention of that proposal. We have a change of chief inspector. He came out the other day to come and see the Checker Mead. He's been talking to me. I'm hoping that his ideas will manifest.
Thank you very much. Councillor Amos, I believe you have a question.
Thank you. I've got a few questions. Can you confidently say that if you spent an additional £1 on policing, that you would see a £1 or more reduction in crime? That's the first question. Secondly, following on from that, will you admit that you can have over policing? Like there can be too many bodies on the beat. For example, let's imagine you spent £10,000 and you, probably would be in terms of labour time, but you only reduced property crime or crime overall by £7,000. Would you admit that that's over policing? There's too many police. And thirdly, and I think this would help out shopkeepers and things like that, is it possible to ensure that the police don't respond to certain sort of crimes? So imagine somebody shoplifted and somebody sort of dragged the boy off and stuck him in a room and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people are fearful that they'll be the one that's prosecuted and the boy who's stolen whatever it is will be the one that gets away. Now, this is a costless proposal. If you didn't follow up on self-enforcement, you let people do it themselves, because as the businessman here said, you don't turn up all the time. If you let them do it themselves in certain cases, and you gave them a guarantee that we will not follow this up, so the boy can still follow up, but you wouldn't follow up, because you can choose, I assume, not to enforce certain crimes. You can't enforce all of them. Would you say that that is a good idea? Can you adopt that, actually, is the question. Can you adopt that? We will not punish self-enforcement, because that is a costless proposal that would certainly help these guys out on the left.
Councillor Amos, I can't really comment on any of those questions. The reason being, especially with the last one, you would have to be looking at a national picture. It's not for Sussex Police we couldn't just change our policies or how we're going to deal with it. We do, for instance, retail crime in Crawley, there's security guards detain shoplifters, they keep them there. And then when the police can get there, they get there, and it can either be dealt with if the people have done it before, they may get arrested, or if it's below a certain amount of money, we may be able to give them a fixed penalty notice or a community resolution or something like that. But we, hand on heart, I wouldn't be able to tell you whether we were going to ever adopt a policy like that, because it wouldn't be up for me to say, and I can't commit to making any sort of comments like that, unfortunately. When it comes to the money, again, I'm a neighbourhood policing sergeant, pretty low down on the pile, but in my world, I quite enjoy it, and we look after what we can within our community. Where the money's going to go, and over-policing, I haven't experienced over-policing in the 20 years I've been in the police, because it's always been pretty much like it is at the moment. It's just getting worse. But I see your point, but I can't answer those questions categorically.
You
said
can, but self-employed doesn't have to reply. That's all.
well, what's it here for? If not to reply to me and the other members of the committee. I don't understand how you can say I don't know whether or not there will be a in excess of £1 reduction in crime for each additional pound of policing spent, and then say, and then admit to the concept of over policing, because doesn't the idea of over policing have to admit to this kind of cost benefit analysis? I just think it's important that we all understand that there can be too much of a good thing, like, because good things cost money. Like, you wouldn't want 10, 20 police officers.
Councillor, I think we need to get to the point where there's an even balance of policing before we worry about over policing. At the moment, there is no over policing. We have,
but we need to be able to do that. We need to determine whether or not there's over policing or under policing according to a cost benefit analysis.
This table,
and unless this argument can answer whether or not an additional pound of expenditure is going to result in an additional pound or greater than.
Councillor, there's nobody around this table that is qualified to be able to say at what point that happens. We don't have the data in front of us, we don't have the information to hand.
Fair enough.
We can't say that at this point. All we want to do is raise our concerns with Sergeant Point, get back in, because they do a very difficult job in very difficult times. And it's not a job personally I'd want to do, but they have to do what they can with the resources they want. We all want more police on the streets, and when we get to the point where we have enough, then we'll worry about the over policing issue. At the moment, we don't have enough. We want them to do as best they can with the maths that they've got. So I think if it's okay with you, I'm going to move on to Councillor Odey. Yes, by all means you can ask a question.
Carol, thank you, Chair. That's really great. Paul, I just want to echo what everyone said. Really appreciate what you do. Fantastic. I think everyone understands that. I don't know if anybody's watched the Nightclubber series on Channel 5 of Brighton Police. It's really interesting and actually quite horrific. So what you guys do is amazing. I've had some communications with Mid Sussex Police over the years, and also Sussex Police, road police, mainly because of my cycling involvement. And I have to say, you know, the responses that I get is always great. And like you said, it's resources permitting that everyone's been terrific. One thing that strikes me when I see residents on social media talking about antisocial driving, for instance, as an example, they're not very willing to report it. And I wondered whether, if you've got this sort of new strategy in terms of social media marketing, it might be an idea to really get home what people can do in terms of strategy to get this reported. You know, because I understand, as I understand it, if you report it, it gets put onto a database, and you guys can see what's going on where in the hotspots, particularly where these things are happening. And I just wonder, you know, what your thoughts are in terms of strategy for people to actually report this, and also, you know, is it something that, you know, we can help facilitate as well?
Yeah. Are you referring to Operation Crackdown, where members of the public can go online and report antisocial behaviour, antisocial driving, etc.?
As an example, yes.
Okay,
But
so
also just as a context of something else as well. I was at the SF garage 2 days ago, and I saw a group of boys steal some things out of the shop, and reiterating what I listened to there. I apologise.
Right, Stuart.
What he says, that you know, shopkeepers just can't be bothered with it. They don't want the hassle. And it really irritated me. I was really angry on the forecourt. And it's that kind of thing that really irritates a lot of residents. So if it's easy, then, you know, get it out, I'm sure, to report.
certainly, I think it all gets triaged, and what comes in, the information is used. I know that with the neighbourhood policing, we get crackdown referrals coming to us, and then we go and visit the individuals at home and explain to them that effectively they get a warning and then told that it will be progressed further.
Yeah.
So we get quite a few of those coming through on a daily basis, and it's all audited, and we have to go and attend the address and go and see these people. So that is one way. The contacting, if people think it's serious enough that they're concerned about the driving or the antisocial behaviour these drivers are showing, they should just contact, just like the businesses do, and contact 101 and report it that way. The difficulty is you don't have a dedicated line that you can call in just in relation to traffic.
Yes.
That would be nice. So crackdown kind of helps us a little bit with that, because also there's the difficulties with evidencing traffic offences. It's that type of thing really needs to be seen at the time and then dealt with.
Yeah.
So retrospectively, it's harder to deal with traffic crime, but you get the indexes of the vehicles, and you are able to, they go onto the national computer, and if it happens again, or they get caught, then we know the type of offending that particular vehicle's been doing.
Can I just, yeah, okay, very, very quickly. The incident that I'm referring to is something that happened on rail approach. Just as an example, drivers are going out at midnight, you know, doing screeching down the road, speeding and everything.
Yeah.
Residents were very scared to actually go out and video this.
Yeah.
Because Operation Crackdown, you have to have video evidence, don't you, on those things?
Oh, no, you don't have to. No, I mean, Crackdown, no, you don't have to have video evidence. We've got an operation at the moment that's running, it's near Burgess Hill in relation to boy races. And we do, every Thursday night, we have officers deployed on this particular stretch where they're coming together. If that information about railway approach wasn't reported, that would make it very difficult for me to respond to. We need to know about that, because we can then involve the traffic units to come down, because neighbourhood policing finishes their shifts at 11 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning or something, out they come and they start doing things like that. So we have to get the traffic police that are on a night shift, come down to East Grinstead and come to railway approach. But if we don't know about it, it's not going to happen. But we want it to happen. We want to solve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I would just like to add to that. I think it'd be a great idea if you are using social media, to Facebook, Twitter, and things like that, to put out information so that ways people can report it. Because, and I say this every meeting we have, I get really fed up of opening up Facebook and seeing, oh, there's boy races going up and down this road, or can you hear the screeching? Can you hear this? There's people doing this donuts in Home Place car park. Have you reported it? Oh no, I haven't. I don't think I should. Well, why put it on Facebook? Facebook, you got your. If we saw a police officer walking around on Facebook going, "Oh, look, I'm just looking at this," we'd think they weren't doing their job. From what I'm hearing, you need the information, whether it be 999, 111, emails, whatever. This is happening. This has happened. Here's some information about it, so you know where the hotspots are, what time. You can build up the information that got a profile of what's happening.
Yes.
You don't do that through Facebook. So
No.
to everybody in this instance, please report it if you see it, and don't put it on Facebook until you've reported it, because that way then you guys can do your job. Is how the way I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Paul,
Hi.
we're very privileged to have you. We were very privileged to have your predecessors, Pete Donnet, and also Darren Taylor, who I think was in the neighbourhood policing team. You are, all three of you, all came to this forum, which is critical for the public to retain confidence in the police. You come tonight, hands up. You've answered every question that you can. You told it as it is, as did Pete, as did Darren. We can't ask more than that. We have a responsibility around this table. Police and crime commissioners were brought in 12 years ago by the coalition government then, but it's successfully now 3 Conservative prime ministers. Police budgets nationally have been cut approximately by 20% and the workforce by 20%. We can't get around that fact. That is a fact. Out of the 43 police forces in this country, 7 are in special measures. We're lucky that Sussex isn't, because I think it's well run Sussex force. We're accountable. It's very progressive with our police system. But the fact of the matter is, those are the facts of the table. You've got to work with the cards that you've dealt with, and you do that very well. But we need more cards. It's clear. So the context of that has got to be put on the table, whether we like it or not. We're all part of that. The police force has been allowed, through various reasons, to have less people over the last 12 years. On Chequer Mead, I was, you're probably aware that was effectively a joint venture, because the Chequer Mead Trust is a charity. At the time in 2017, this town council, the Chequer Mead Trust and Sussex Police came together to bring that police contact centre together. They all put capital money into it. It's a superb facility, because I know exactly what's in there and what IT is in there. It's a superb building. I'm not quite sure. Are you still using it in the back room, so the front room where Sergeant Pete used to be up until about a year ago before he retired, are you still using Checkmate, or is it no longer being used? Because I know that it's a superb facility. And if we can help you in your business case arguments, I'm more than happy to work with the town clerk and the chairman to try and persuade them that it is a superb facility.
Thank you, and thanks for the compliments, I appreciate it. Essentially, it is used. It's not used to the full potential that it could be used at. The front office bit, unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure what is happening there. I know with them, they've started to limit the front office opening times, and it's the yellow phone and things like that, which is frustrating because people want to go and see someone and talk about something. But that's out of my realm. But I will say, yes, it is used. When officers respond to an incident in East Grinstead, there's always a lot of paperwork. So the computers are used there. We use it for our refs. Yeah, but and we use it for our refs, and other units come to East Grinstead, use it as well. But it needs to be it should be full. That would be very helpful, make life a lot easier for all of us.
Can I just also echo, because I think you spoke in terms of the town council, East Grinstead Business Association as well. If there's anything we can do to back up your case, to help your proposal,
Yes.
we'd be behind.
Oh, that's
behind that as
awesome.
well.
Thank you.
So from the town council and obviously the East Grinstead Business Association representing, businesses in the town. So
Thank you. Most definitely.
Okay, last question from Councillor Peacock, please.
Yeah, thanks. It's really touching on the discussion about social media. When you look at certainly the county councils West Sussex, they have an app called Love Clean Streets, and it allows residents to report, potholes, things like that, fallen trees. I guess this may not be in your remit, perhaps, but is there any app that could be adopted for the police to, instead of relying on an email or something, is there any app that could be released from Sussex Police? I know the back end it could be labour intensive in processing them, but it might facilitate greater number of reports, as it were.
I like the idea, sir. I can't say whether it would be feasible or not, but it would improve communication, and that's what we need to do. And frustratingly, we need as much information from our public as possible. But there's always all sorts of data protection issues, and perhaps sensitive material being posted on there that might relate to a live investigation, and then that investigation falls to pieces at court. So there are a lot of...
Not simple.
No, no, not at all. But it's certainly something that I can pass back to our headquarters and say, is it possible? Even if it was only for East Grinstead. I don't know the feasibility of it, but I'm more than happy to try anything.
Right, I'm going to leave the questions there and say thank you ever so much for coming today. One thing, one of our councillors did, Councillor Belsey did was the Glades play area. There's quite a few reports to him.
Yeah.
Again, not the right channels. That there's quite a lot of drug dealing and drug activity down there. I think it's mainly in that dip area behind the bushes that seems to take place.
I remember that was a problem before, and then the bushes were all trimmed.
Then nature took over.
Yes, it needs to get trimmed essentially.
So I know Councillor Belsey is going to look at that because that's part of his portfolio in Sussex. So I think he can get that bit done.
Yeah.
But being a local resident that way myself, I do know
sure.
As well. So it would be rather useful if the future patrols.
Yeah, 100%. We're more than happy to do that.
And then I know speeding is a massive issue in the town. Dunnings Mill Road, Hurst Farm Road, the one-way system. If it could be reported and you could get traffic car here once or twice a week would be appreciated, because I think there's a few people using the town as a bit of a racetrack,
Yes,
which we would like to stop. if
100%.
at all possible. But I'd like to say thank you ever so much for coming. Thank you
it's
for
a pleasure.
everything you're doing.
Thank you.
And we are 100% behind you. We know that you have your hands tied, but by listening to everybody's concerns, if you can help with those, that is appreciated. And,
Certainly.
hopefully we can get people behind the police again and realise that they're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. And I must just add, your concerns are exactly the same concerns that I have. So I'm behind all your, what you want to do as much as anybody else,
We know that.
and it will help us too. And I don't want East Grinstead to go through unnecessary crimes and antisocial behaviour if we can help it.
But we've got a report.
Also,
So you
I just wanted to say, Business Association not only runs 2 websites, one closely with council, but we put out regular newsletters. In fact, Lisa does them all. There is no reason why you can't put something on that for us, or whatever you like, which goes to all our members and is available.
Yes, we could put
You
some
can use
crime
this as a
prevention
forum.
advice
Whatever you
and,
like, and just
Yep.
so that they see that you're
yes.
taking part in it. And all you got to do is deal with research.
No, that's an absolute, that's a given. That's not a problem. Any platform we can get onto, we're happy to.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Brilliant. So,
Okay.
I believe you both would like to, you're done your bit now,
Yes,
so
thank
you'd
you
like to
very
leave
much.
that
Thank you
one.
for letting us come
Thank you
on.
very much.
Thanks for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Absolute pleasure. You take care.
Oh, we're running out on this now.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Down the pub. Cause a bit of trouble.
Don't tell me. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, what is left? We've got a fair few bits to get through, so let's crack on. You'll notice in front of you, you've got some coloured bits of paper, information and public narrative and so on. This leads us on to agenda item 7, which is the integrated care services. This is the presentation that we would have got tonight. Unfortunately, they were unable to attend, but we had, however, we have requested a speaker for December. In the meantime, please take the time to go through the presentation and the brief. This is provided in hard copy, and the minutes will include digital copies for members. Please read them and come prepared with questions for the December meeting. The December meeting is a time to coincide with the 6th month of operation. You will note that the final slide presentation. Thank you, Councillor. The final slide of the first presentation in your pack. That is the first goal, is to reduce waiting times. I therefore very much hope to hear that by December, a clear plan of progress is being made as accessibility to doctors' appointments and GP practices and referrals. I'm sure we will agree with that, because it's not easy, having had to do that myself recently. Any questions or anything on that? I think obviously we're going to have a few more questions once we've had a chance to read through it. Councillor Whisker?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Yeah, I think we could do with a simple paper on the context of what this is, because I don't think people have got it, they don't understand what's happened. As at the 1st of July, the clinical commission groups have been legally abolished, and the new integrated care boards have been legally constituted. So this is a wholesale administrative change in the NHS. Been very poorly publicised, hardly publicised at all. And because it's happened in the summer, it's gone under the radar pretty much for everybody. I appreciate the slides, and it looks like a bit of a marketing sort of tool to me rather than a pragmatic sort of facts of the system.
I believe, Councillor Whisker, there is that the information is in the narrative.
Yeah. So
it should be some info.
So I think the good news out of this is Sussex County, West and East, has its own integrated care board now, so it's a county-wide. So it's, whereas the clinical commission groups, there were 2 or 3 commissioning groups that covered our patch, so it became difficult. But we need to be very watchful here, because this is yet another Conservative government reorganisation of the health service with the new health and care bill that's come in. And we know how the last reorganisation went. And so ideally what we need is to get the key contacts in the new integrated care boards. I know the town clerk is working on this because she and I have had discussions on it. But particularly when it comes to forward planning, for instance, with housing numbers, housing site allocations, increasing populations, we need to be able to talk as a planning authority and as a parish with the decision makers and the planners in the new integrated care board as to principally where the GPs is going to come from, set up, how they get funded. Because at the moment, it's just a black hole.
Yeah. Just going off on that, if anybody having, after reading these documents, has any questions, if you can email myself and Julie, if that's okay, and then we can collate all the information and come back to you, hopefully answering those questions, if that works for everybody.
Thank you. If I might, I totally agree with what Councillor Whittaker is saying. The unfortunate thing is that I believe that the care services are in crisis because there aren't enough doctors. There aren't enough doctors in the world. There aren't enough doctors in the country, and there certainly aren't enough doctors in East Grinstead for the amount of population that we have. This is for various reasons. I owe my life to the fact that you can actually go straight to A&E now, which is part of this integrated care system. If that wasn't in place, you'd be very lucky not having it anymore. On a couple of occasions actually, but they are, as I see it, unfortunately, they're trying to do their best with a certain degree of underfunding, quite a big degree of underfunding. But I was talking to the guy that deals with the 3 surgeries quite recently, and I said to him, point blank, it was at one of the lab meetings quite recently, Ian Gibson is the guy that's responsible for Judges Close and Croydon down, and I said to him, are we ever going to get back to the system that we used to have, where each of us would have a doctor ascribed to us, and we could regularly get in front of a doctor to see one when we wanted to? And he said no. That's the situation we're at the moment. I think we need to push, as you say, to get more money spent on key things like the police, like the health service, but unfortunately some of the time, as we've seen quite recently, when money is allocated to the care services, it's used for what I would call creating new positions of wokery, rather than actual carers, nurses, and for the limited number of doctors we have. It would scare you if you knew just how little doctor cover we have in the town at the moment. And I think that the way that they're best dealing with it at the moment is by bringing everything together, including pharmacists. So that's my contribution from it.
Councillor Evans.
Can I ask the committee when the health service was properly funded? When are the periods between which it was properly funded? Because we always seem to hear that everything is underfunded. And I can't believe there's never been a period that has been funded properly. So when has it been funded properly?
I personally don't think we can answer that because, well,
In order to know that it's underfunded,
Thanks,
you need to
Paul.
know when it's properly funded. So given you've all said it's underfunded, when was it properly funded?
I think it's clear, like with the policing, that there is not enough money for it. Having a wife who's in the NHS and knowing what everybody's up against, we can't, again, we don't have that information. We don't have those facts and figures to hand. You're just as likely to find out by Googling it as the rest of us at the moment. It's once again something for outside of this committee. We don't have that information. We don't have the facts, the figures, and stuff to hand to be able to answer that question. Things are underfunded. As much as we'd love to say, okay, yeah, we don't want to tax anybody anymore and things like that, there isn't enough money for certain things. And unfortunately, people are suffering. I had to try and get my son a doctor's appointment, and the hoops we had to jump through just to get him to an appointment, we ended up in A&E because of it. So, from personal experience, I believe we're underfunded. I can't prove it. But if you phone the doctors and you can't get through, then it feels like proof enough. So I think we're going to leave that there and move on, because we've only got an hour left and there's still a fair bit to get on with. Moving on to the community team report. Alice, I was going to go a little bit deeper into it, but we've got to. I just think the purple bus thing was great. We've got so many things coming up. The October half-term activities.
Can I just add 2 updates to that?
Of course you may. I was just going to say St. Barbara's. That sounds that's exciting. And the SID, the speed indicator, we've got one of those, I believe, on order now. And so that's going to be a great thing that we can try and limit some of the speeding in certain areas at certain times now. So, but please go.
Thank you. So just a quick update on what's already in the report on the purple bus is that the King Centre have confirmed that the party room can be made available for the youth group from end of September, October time. So that's really great to ensure that the youth provision can continue over the winter when it's too cold to be outside. PCSO Vanda was instrumental in setting that up, and she's there seeing the young people. She knows a lot of them by name, and she is quite visible to most of those young people. You may have also seen that the Turning Tides homeless outreach support bus has been parked in Checkham Mead car park, and it's going to be there on Wednesdays from 11 till 12:30. It's currently supporting 10 people in East Grinstead at the moment, plus any new clients that approach the bus. Those are just the 2 updates I wanted to add, really, because I know we're short in time.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I think thank you very much for everything you're doing. And is any questions?
Sorry, Chair, yeah, just so I've been caught the second half of the youth provision. Is that something that's agreed? And if so, sounds great. Will we be communicating that on town council website, Facebook pages?
Yeah, it's on there. The purple bus has been at the King's Field for the last 12 Fridays.
Yeah, the King Centre inside.
Yeah, that's just we've got another meeting next week. It's just getting formalised and
Right, so it's not ready to announce quite yet.
Not yet, but when it is, we definitely will be.
And then you'll announce that to the other Facebook groups. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Super.
Anybody else? On that one? Okay, so that was just for noticing as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alice.
Item agenda item 9, transport matters. So the purpose of this report, an update of the highways rail matters affecting the town at this time. The recommendation confirms that this is just for noting, so that travel has been particularly challenging for residents this year. I think we can all agree on that. I've been driving around East Grinstead the last 3 days, and I don't think I've found a road without a set of traffic lights. Even I'm going to so I'm going down to Lincoln, 2 sets of traffic lights on the same bit of road. Ridiculous. I think somebody said you need a passport to get out of East Grinstead, and I don't think that's wrong. Yes, the railway footbridge and lifts are being unveiled tomorrow. So that's good news. Thank you, Judy, for everything on that one as well. Any?
It's not really a question, it's just I live on Turners Hill Road and I've been affected by South East Water's water main, but I just want to say the people at Clancy have done a superb job. I know they started mid-June, it's due to finish mid-October, but just for the record, I'd like to say they've been very considerate, helpful, responding to, from what I've experienced, any resident questions, and they've put the road back to what appears to be a good level, good quality. So I just wanted to put that on record because it's something that probably won't get flagged. So well done to them.
Thank you, Marcel.
Yeah, Joe, yeah, thank you. Everybody driving around, I went down Lincoln Road this morning, I think there were 3 or even 4 sets of traffic lights going on this morning, absolutely incredible. Road closure signs seem to be up everywhere now. Sensible roads is the latest one. And obviously the schools go back next week, so it's not been too bad generally in the summer holidays. But next week's going to be the real test. And it only needs one more significant road in somewhere in the north of the town, sort of Felbridge area. And the town could come to a gridlock. That's my fear, because there are just so many at the moment. Most of them are water.
I believe there is a set of traffic lights just past the Felbridge traffic lights going north of B22. I found those the other day as well.
Yeah, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks they'll taper off and finish, and not too many more will start. But
Yes.
yeah, it is a challenge.
It is, and as all local residents, we want them to go. Let's move on then to agenda item 10, community strategy. This is to agree the strategy for the working of the community team for the next 6-year period. The strategy has been drawn up and it's for amendment and approval to be the basis of the community team's work programme through to the end of 2027. Committee comments. So, has anybody got any comments? I have had a good read through it, and Judy and Alice have been working hard on it. It's a great piece of work myself, and I'd like to personally thank you both for all your hard work on that one. But does anybody else have any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, Chairman, if I don't know if the town clerk could just give a bit of context, sort of background, because presumably we've been discussing this with the chair and other chairs and the leader, etc.
With the chair.
With St Barnabas is mentioned and potentially coming on stream. Is that the sort of drive to this? One of the drivers?
Not particularly. We introduced a tourism strategy some years ago for that side of the work. And having rebranded that team and added resources to that team to pick up the community side of things, which we perhaps hadn't spent as much time on as certainly committee would have liked us to, as conversations we've had with the leader, with the chair, that it was felt that it was time to bring forward a strategy. So we've been talking about it for several months, and it was given to Alice as an objective not long after she started. And we've worked since that time together to bring it through, and unfortunately the world is changing quite significantly as we know, so I think it's going to have to be a fluid document, but the idea behind it is to be this committee's work stream for that area of Alice's team's work. So it should be the things that you are wanting us to be looking at, and a lot of the initial work here is exploratory to find out what we need, do we need, what else is there, to make sure we're not reinventing the wheel, and then looking to see what needs to be, where the problems are in the town. I think probably the impetus for this was several years ago when we became very mindful of pulling back from several specific services at West Sussex County, thinking social services, the changes in the early services for children at West Sussex, and just really making sure that the town was self-sufficient. And if we weren't able to provide it, how can we get it provided? We can't do everything, and this is not a template for services to be provided by this town council, but it's services to make sure that they are in the town, which is what we're looking for. And yes, so that's kind of where it's come from. The world has changed, local government has changed, and this area of work has picked up inside local government. It was part of the reason for making the team bigger. That all went through the committee a year and a half ago, and we've now finally got to the strategy point. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I would just make one. Thank you, Town Clerk. I just want to comment that. Really, obviously, coming on to the point about things changing and fluidity. Obviously, within our community now, we do have some Afghan people that have been repatriated under the official scheme, as well as obviously Ukrainians. So presumably this document, they will come under the umbrella of this document. And
Yeah, there
working
is a
with-
section.
Absolutely.
So that's perfect timing. So, and I would like to thank Alice, because I know that a number of community groups that I've been involved with have mentioned you specifically, because you reached out to them, you consulted them, and informed them and got their views. So well done to you.
If nobody's got any more comments on that, I would like to propose it as a document that it needs to be fluid, so I'd like to propose that and that we adopt that for now. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour? And thank you both for, I think, that's great. I think it's got something to look forward to. Right, safe places. There's a report in there that I'm sure you've all read. The committee confirmed that East Grinstead will transfer from the National Safe Places scheme and support the Sussex Safe Spaces in its current state. Have you read through it? Yes.
Some members of the committee will remember when we started Safe Places several years ago now. And I personally, I have to say how disappointed I am that this has happened. But the position that we are in is that the Sussex Police have created a local scheme. It's a really good scheme that they're putting in place. So I don't regret that. It's just that we were part of the national scheme, and personally, I thought the national scheme was good. We obviously piloted it here in East Grinstead. We were very happy with it, and it was making a difference to people. So we were really pleased with that. The new scheme is going to do exactly the same thing. They're working very hard to get more and more businesses involved. So I think it's going to be bigger, which therefore makes it better with regards to the facilities available to people in our town. So I think that's a good thing. It's free, it's funded via the PCC's office, so it's not going to cost us anything. Mid Sussex have made the decision they will not continue with the funding of the national scheme. They're going into the local scheme. So if we want to stay national, we have to pay the annual fee. I personally, I think, Chairman, that we've got to follow where the rest of Sussex is going on this one, but I have to do it with a little bit of regret, because we all worked so hard to get our scheme set up, and then it was aligned to the national scheme, and I just thought it worked so well. So personally, I'm sad, but the reasons are there.
I understand that, I think, but if in the interest of keeping in line with the rest of Sussex and also saving money,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was £150 a year, so
Mm.
yeah, so that's a saving. So I would like to propose that we move across to the Sussex one. May I have a second?
Second.
Fantastic. All those in favour? Brilliant.
Thank you.
All right, put that in.
Saves money.
Saves money.
Fantastic. Agenda item 12, consultation. Just on the strategy of the transport for the South East Plan. This is also a joint response from MSALC, which is the Association of Town Councils, and going forward, Julie here Town Clerk has done an amazing job with our response from that. I think it was a 128-page document to go through and filter out the bits that were about us and then not really about us, because they were quite far too broad brush. Julie's response has been fantastic. We're really focusing back on East Grinstead and how we want to try and be linked to the other towns, and how we want the infrastructure and trains and so on and so forth. So I think it's a great piece of work. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. A lot of hard work's gone into the response, and I just want to bring out on page 5, East Grinstead response. We welcome the strategic plans as laid out. However, they do not go far enough to address the concerns of East Grinstead, and I totally agree with that. We wanted to see specific inclusion of the A264 A22 junction upgrade to resolve the existing traffic congestion where these two A roads converge to the north of East Grinstead. Totally agree with that. The other part that I would totally agree with is on page 6. It is welcome to see plans to reopen rail lines between Erich, Tunbridge Wells and Uckfield and Lewes, but there should also be an east-west connection to East Grinstead or plans to progress south to Havensea. And then further below that, the detail of the various plans will of course provide much more information. However, a strategic response shows that the existing networks are being expanded, improved and upgrades, especially around the Crawley, Horsham, Gatwick area, but the Mid-Sussex district remains fragmented. Once again, I would say we are the poor relations, and I thank you so much for making sure that I would really hammer that home. And I think that the town mayor said earlier on about it seems ridiculous with policing matters that other towns with smaller populations get more concern and more mention than we do. And I think that that is something that we're really going to have to keep hammering on. So well done, Town Clerk, for the terrific response that you've sent on that. And I would love to see that really hammered home. Thank you.
As part of the East Sussex Association of Town Councils, we agreed at the last meeting that we would all write a response to our own towns that we would then try and link in together to go back as a response. Currently, our town clerk has done an amazing job getting ours back and very comprehensive.
Absolutely.
Burgess Hill, very broad brush. I believe we went through their plans department, so it's very utilitarian and doesn't really, and it's very for them. Whereas we've tried to include links to Haywards and Burgess Hill so that people can travel between the three towns and make it easier.
Absolutely.
Theirs is very closely, and we are still waiting for Haywards, so we haven't really heard anything from them at the moment. But for our document, I think it's a great piece of work. We know that we need to be connected. You know, we're stuck at the end of East Grinstead, the train line. It's great if you want to get a seat in the morning, but going anywhere else, you're absolutely stuck. So I would like to, I'm happy to propose it as our contribution to this. I've asked for a second for that.
I'll second it.
Fantastic, thank you much. Very much.
On page 4, there's a mistake. The plan allocates 45 million to works to be taken over 27 years of the plan. This is approximately 1.5 billion pounds per year. That's supposed to be million, actually.
It's a billion, no, the million should be a billion.
45 billion should be.
45 billion?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
thank you, it is a mistake, and I have
It's the
to
other way
change
round.
that one.
Yeah.
That's all right.
The chairman picked that one up a little while ago, unfortunately, and I just haven't changed it in the
That's fine.
If I've written to you,
the
it'd
one
be easier.
here, I apologise, I will get that corrected,
Yes,
because you're absolutely right, but actually it's a bigger pot of money than you thought.
All those in favour? Fantastic. Okay, well, we got to that last bit quite quickly, so thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Councillor Odie, for coming as well and putting your questions to Sergeant Boyd. And the next meeting will be on December the 1st, so that's going to come around quicker than we realise, I think. So I'd like to close this meeting at 8:13.